The US empire is falling militarily for the same reason that the Roman Empire fell militarily. To TLDR, Roman military history, basically they took over as much territory as they could by force. And admittedly, they were pretty good at that, but they used the reputation of being good at that to win over new territories and new peoples into the Roman fold. Basically, they said to anyone and everyone on their borders, hey, you are going to get taken over by us sooner or later, but if you cut a deal with us right now, you're going to get a better deal than if we have to come take you by force later. And a lot of people thought that was a pretty good deal because honestly, compared to the alternative, it kind of was. A lot of these lands and a lot of these peoples were able to maintain some amount of local autonomy so long as they paid taxes and sent men to go fight in the legions, which the Romans used to bolster their military and then go out further and make the same threat to more people. But as the empire got bigger, they had too many borders in too many places to be fighting on all fronts all the time. That is to say, even though the Roman Empire was the biggest, baddest kid on the block, in local regions, the balance of power could actually shift towards much, much smaller tribes and nations. Of course, Rome did what they could to garrison their border territories in order to defend against these possible attacks. But for arguably most of the empire's history, a relatively small tribe, if they devoted all of their time and attention, could easily raid their way into Roman territory, sack whole cities and regions, and haul off treasure back to their homes pretty easily. But they often didn't, and the reason why is because Rome would play their neighbors off of each other. They would select neighboring tribes and nations to get preferential treatment from them. They would be paid off, or they would receive protection, or they would be given grain. Meanwhile, they would pick other tribes to kind of arbitrarily be the enemy. And what this did was guarantee that these tribes would never join forces. If you were one of the preferred allied tribes, why would you go and attack your benefactors? Why would you risk your life taking what they're freely giving to you? And if you were one of their enemies, why would you attack a big giant empire with legions that could come descend down upon you when you could just attack your neighbor that has most of the riches you were trying to steal from the Romans anyway? And for a long time, that system worked pretty well. It allowed Rome to concentrate its forces into much smaller places in order to attack much bigger, stronger enemies. They were able to do that because they didn't have to constantly worry about raiders on their frontiers. But as you could probably guess, this system didn't last forever because the system relies on keeping the tribes and nations divided. So if anything were to unite them under common cause, Rome would be under a real threat. Tribes that on a good day Rome could literally not even give a shit about could suddenly bring down the entire empire. And skimming over a lot of other factors, that is basically what happened. The tribes started joining forces for three major reasons. The first is other outside threats, like the Huns, who are moving into Germanic territory and forcing a lot of these tribes to work together in order to survive and then get pushed into Roman territory. Two, they wanted to get fat and rich, and who had all the food and gold? Rome. It had always been sitting over there. They've always wanted it, and once they coalesced, they realized they could just go get it. And three, some incredible mismanagement on the part of the Romans. Because remember, one of the most important ways to keep the tribes divided was to offer better terms to the ones who came willingly to you than the ones that you had to fight to subdue. But what did the Romans do over and over and over again? They started backstabbing these tribal leaders. They started killing them and slaughtering them and sneering at them, not doing anything to actually welcome and assimilate them into the empire, which is what they always used to do, which is what made them an empire in the first place. They turned possible allies into enemies. They turned possible citizens into insurgents. And they did all of that by just being fucking dicks to them. They gave all of their neighboring tribes and nations common cause to hate them and attack them at every turn. And once everyone started finding out that everyone else was also beating down on Rome, they got in on the action. It was a land grab. You have to get it while the getting's good. And right there is the process that the United States has started. The United States government has given a common enemy to Russia, China, Iran, Venezuela, Cuba, Colombia, Mexico, Greenland, Canada, Denmark, the UK, the EU, immigrants who could have been helpful contributors to our own society, our own citizens who are being needlessly attacked due to their skin color, their sexual preferences, their gender identity, their religion, what fucking have you. The United States military requires resources, manufacturing, assistance, and allies around the entire globe in order to function. And we, instead, have made enemies of the entire fucking globe. And now, Iran is stopping us in our fucking tracks for the entire world to see. How long do you think it'll be before all of these different forces who have been living under the thumb of the US empire for generations now start to realize, hey, if we all just start moving together, they're fucking cooked. Them coming to that realization is only a matter of time. And that is why the US military regime is about to fucking fall.